Hey guys, how is everybody doing with the brand new Saw X coming out in theaters just next Friday? I have decided to review the other 9 Saw movies. Yes, 9 Saw movies. It's gonna be a bumpy road. Before I begin, I usually like to tell stories about certain horror movies that kind of like changed my life in a way, and like just nostalgic reasons why I may like it, ways I may not like it. Maze. But Saw is a very important horror movie for me. When I was young, my dad, he was not a big horror fan. He still isn't really. And when I was younger, I found out that he had 3 horror movies that about horror icons that I always knew about. Halloween, the original Friday 13th, and Saw. I found all 3 of those movies, and my dad made me a deal that I could watch one of those movies every other day. And so one day I would say, "Oh, I want to watch Halloween." The other day I would say like Saw or Friday 13th. I think Halloween was the last one that I watched. I can't really remember, but I always remember Saw. Saw was one of those movies when I watched it, I was kind of freaked out by it. It never scared me, but the premise of Saw always scared me where this could happen to me. Like horror slashers like, oh, that's just a generic thing that could happen, but being kidnapped and being forced to play this weird, sadistic, twisted game to save your own life, or you'll die in a horrible way, and you'll possibly have to cut off your own limbs just to survive, like, to me, that freaked me out as a kid. I was, like, wondering, like, what if this happens to me? What if I get kidnapped by this guy wearing a pig mask and being forced to play this game, to save my life? That just alone scared me, and every time I would watch these movies when I was younger, I would get, like, a sickening feeling because how gross they were. This is what horror fans like me like to call the torture porn era, where you got Saw and Hostel, and for the longest time, these movies creeped me out. And Saw was one of those movies that always creeped me out while watching it as a kid. I could watch it now and I'm fine. Saw is a very important movie to me. I'm finally done telling my big story on Saw. So I'll finally shut up and I'll give you my thoughts on Saw. Up with my positives on Saw is James Wan's directing. If you do not know who James Wan is, he is a modern director, mostly modern horror director. Really, he's the guy who's directed Insidious chapters 1 and 2, Conjurings 1 and 2, Saw, Aquaman, *Malignant*. Uh, he's directed a lot of movies. Dead Silence, I guess that's not a very good movie. But to me, James Wan, I will contend, is probably the most iconic horror movie director in the modern age. That or Mike Flanagan and Jordan Peele. But I love James Wan. I've always loved a lot of his movies. Even if the movie's bad, I still think he's a great director. And I've always loved James Wan. The way he directs this movie is good, especially this being one of his first movies ever made. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure is his first movie ever made. Is it? Yeah, I think it is. Or if not, this was the first movie that he wrote. I'm pretty sure. But other than that, if I'm very certain this is his first movie, and if it is, he did a damn good job being a first time director. He was a film student for the longest time, and him and his buddy Leigh Whannell, who is one of the writers of this movie and who also stars in this movie, who I will get to very soon, is where they both came up with this plan, like, oh, mate, we should write this movie called Saw, and they already got a script, and they were going to meet with Lionsgate in, like, Los Angeles, and they're both from Australia, and that's a very long place away. And the story is that they wrote the script, and you're like, know what, let's take this one scene, like the scene from the scene with Amanda with the bear trap thing. They filmed that, but with Leigh Whannell in like a $10 shot, basically, where they filmed this scene, and I'll probably have a clip of it here. That whole sequence shot that they shot for Lionsgate and a lot of production companies is what got this movie made. And because of the brilliant James Wan, we got Saw, and probably one of the most iconic horror franchises in the world. I also like how we get to see different traps in this movie instead of being in this one room with 2 guys with shackles on their ankles trying to figure out this escape plan thing. But we actually get to see different traps throughout the movie. You get to see this one guy that's in like a room of barbed wire. He has to crawl through it, and then you get this guy who's butt-ass naked, covered in like this weird gel, and he has to be careful of his step because he'll step on glass and stuff. You get Amanda, who is which is my favorite scene in the entire movie, where she has a bear trap, or like a bear trap on her face, but it's just gonna like basically pry her jaw open and stuff. That, like, a lot of horror fans know the scene I'm talking about. A lot of fans of Saw know what I'm talking about. It's a great scene. I love that scene where we get to see Billy the puppet, and like that whole iconic thing where the TV turns on. It's like, "Hello, Amanda. I want to play a game." You know, a lot of people think that Jigsaw came up with that line. No, Ghostface came first, bitch. Live with it. Stupid ass teenagers. 2000 kids? What? So what? I was born in 2000. Why are you lingering? Cut away! Speaking of Jigsaw, I honestly like the Jigsaw character. I will admit this, though. He's not one of my favorite horror icons of all time. That might get me in trouble. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But Jigsaw's never been one of those horror icons where I've loved. I feel he's an awesome horror character that he should be memorized by everybody. That has not always been Jigsaw for me. I've always thought he was an interesting character where he doesn't actually kill people, which I will get to soon, where he puts people in traps and he makes them basically make them appreciate life more as we learn more in the Saw franchise, where he was diagnosed with cancer. He tried to kill himself, or his fiance lost her baby. I don't know. The series is very convoluted. I'll get to them when I get to those movies. Well, whatever the case was, after he supposedly survived a car crash, he tried to make other people appreciate life, putting them in deadly traps to see if they can survive, if they are worth living and stuff like that. I've always thought he was an interesting character. I also like the Billy the Puppet. Like he's like the design of that puppet, which I also love. I love hearing where James Wan uh, made drew the puppet himself, and he also made the doll himself, like physically. Like he made the doll that you see in this movie. James Wan made himself. Like it's not easy to make a doll. I don't know if any of you know that. Like a lot of you are probably sitting there like, oh, that's cool, made a doll. So what? Making a doll is not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. But the fact that James Wan was able to make that puppet himself is fucking impressive. Look at this motherfucker. You think this was easy to make? No, it's not easy to make. Say hi. Why am I treating it like a baby? Positive is that I like how this movie is like a murder mystery where you get to see the detective side of stuff where they're trying to figure out who the Jigsaw killer is, what his motive is if we're doing this, where does he put all these people, why is he doing this, who is he, and all that. I love seeing that even just like in the room with Lawrence and Adam, where they're trying to figure out who's doing this to them, but at the same time they're trying to figure out how to get out of there, but but they're also figuring out why they're even in this room together, and how like I said, the detectives where they're trying to figure out who Jigsaw is. I like seeing all that. I'm a sucker for mystery movies. I always love a good mystery, like Scream. I love Scream. And I love seeing that stuff in here. That's good stuff there. I enjoy seeing that. It keeps me invested. Like I've seen this movie 100 times at this point. I already know it's gonna happen. At the same time, I'm always sitting there like, "Ooh, is he gonna caption? Oh wait, I already know it's gonna happen." But I would have loved to go back in time to see my young self sitting there like, "Who is this guy? What's gonna happen?" Like I wish I can go back in time. We're going back in time. Sorry. Really like the setting of this movie, where it's in like this weird shit room, or as I like to call it, your typical gas station bathroom. Oh, come on. You can't tell me that this room doesn't look like a gas station bathroom. You been in one of those things? But I do like the setting where it's like a just simple area where they can't go any far. It's like an escape room where the whole area around them, like everything that they're looking at, all they know is could be their way out of there. They don't know. It's like an escape room. I'm a sucker for escape rooms. I've always wanted to do one, but Sadly, my little town that I live in doesn't have any, and I have to drive like 16 hours away just to go to one. Not gonna happen. But I've always been a sucker for escape rooms. I love watching YouTube videos on them. I love how this movie is basically an escape room with these two characters. I've always really liked that. It's also just like a simple area. They can't go anywhere. Plus, their ankles are shackled to pipes, so they can't actually move. But I love that whole setting where it's just your typical gas station bathroom, and it's just an area that you just can't go anywhere. But I am glad that the rest of Saw movies don't really do that, and it's more that they can go anywhere. But I will always prefer this just simple small area. Now for my final positive, and I'll probably have a time code. If you have not seen this movie, please skip to this time code if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you've seen trailers for Saw X, you already know the, the twist, so why are you even watching this video? Is the twist at the end of the movie, where throughout the entire movie, every time we go to see Lawrence and Adam in this bathroom, whatever it is, really, and you keep seeing this dead body on the ground, and you think it's dead. You think he's dead because obviously half of his fucking head is like looks like it's shot off. There's blood everywhere. But at the same time, throughout the entire movie, you kind of get hints. Maybe this guy's alive. Maybe you don't really know. Like, why would this dead body just be here the entire time? Like, what's the point of it? Just to hold a gun and a fucking tape player? But no. At the very end of this movie, where you think that this guy named Zepp, who has been actually poisoned by the Jigsaw killer, he might be Jigsaw. The entire movie's kind of leaning. I'm like, maybe Zepp is the Jigsaw killer. Maybe Zepp has been Jigsaw this entire time. I don't know. And then it has that awesome scene where Adam finds a tape player in Zapp's pocket and plays it, and he finds out he has been part of this game. This entire movie, he is not Jigsaw. He has been part of this game. He was forced to be in it because he was poisoned, and he had the choice. Do you want to die, or will you kill this man's wife and child just to save your own life? And then after that tape stops playing, you just see the dead body that's been on the ground this entire time, presumably dead, is alive, and he comes awake and rips off this like piece of makeup or something, and it just shows that he's been alive, and that John Kramer, this man that's been on the ground this entire time, is Jigsaw. He has been there the entire time. It's been right in our faces, but we didn't know it. That is a brilliant way to show off your audience that the man that they are looking for has been right in front of them the entire movie. They've been seeing him, but James Wan tricks them to make him look like that he is dead. That is brilliant directing, that is great writing, and that is just a great way to show off that John Kramer is the Jigsaw killer. Going on to my negatives, and I only have two issues with this movie. And my first one is being Leigh Whannell's acting. Leigh Whannell is one of the writers of this movie, and he also came up with the story for this movie. But his acting in this movie is not good. It's not good. Where he says lines that just come out flat, and it's like, um, that's your best? That's the best you can do? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. His acting, I don't think it's as bad as everybody else makes it out to be. It's pretty bad. But I don't think that it's as bad as everybody else makes it out to be. I still think it's bad. I've always thought it was, but I don't think it's as bad where he says, like, lines. It's just like, dude, what are you saying? Like, especially that whole scene where he pretends to be poisoned. He goes, It's like, you're a shitty actor, dude. You're a good writer, but you're not a good fucking actor. My final negative, and I feel this is a lot of people's issues with this movie, let alone this entire franchise, is this whole fucking side plot where Jigsaw actually isn't a murderer. He finds his own victims to kill themselves. Fuck you, dude. No, dude. You put people in these traps, and if they die, you're responsible for that. You put them in this game. If you die, it's on your ass, dude. You killed them. Don't come as like, oh, I want people to make them appreciate their own lives. I like that, but you, dude, a minute. You just like fucking killing people. Just a minute, dude. Like, I don't buy that. Even James Wan, Leigh Whannell, they came out. That was the original plan and everything. Like, dude, get out of here with that shit. All in all, guys, I love Saw. This is one of my favorite horror movies ever. It's a horror movie that made me grow as a horror fan. It's one of my first horror movies that I ever watched. This is a horror movie that I absolutely love, but is it a movie that I would say is one of the best films of all time? No. But it is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And if you have not seen Saw, or if you are very curious to see it, I would recommend that you go out and buy it. You guys think of Saw? Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. But of course, until my next video, I'll see you next time.